Tiara Kshudi Jaya Raj Amadava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jan Yes Giribharadhar Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we will be reading from the Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Diary, written by Hari Sori. Hari Sori and Kshudi Kirti were the personal servants of Srila Prabhupada at different times, and they wrote different things. Hari Sori wrote more extensively. And Prabhupada also traveled with the GBC secretaries, but they didn't have time to write anything. He kept them very busy. I don't know how they could keep up, or Prabhupada could. Yesterday I woke up at midnight so I could do many extra rounds for the special Ekadasi, and then we went to swim at Shloti, which is spelled with a D. And then we did a very nice program in La Mercy. Before it was only me hiding there, and now there's so many people that live there. So, I'm a little tired from yesterday, so forgive me if I skipped a couple mantras there, and we will read from here. Okay. One of the devotees found Prabhupada's earlier response to Sadhuputa's questions ambiguous. On the other hand, you say scientists are rascal, and on the other you say not to condemn them. Srila Prabhupada's answer was pellucid. There was no contradiction. No, rascal means that when they say there is no God, then they are rascals. Here is scientist. He does not say that there is no God. Anyone who says there is no God, he is rascal. He may be scientist, philosopher, anyone. A constant theme of Srila Prabhupada's preaching is the logic of recognizing that if there is a mother and an offspring, then there must also be a father. Yet today Sadhuputta Prabhu presented a question about living entities that apparently do not have mothers and fathers in the material sense. Do we accept the way bacteria reproduced, he asked, by fission, splitting in half? I know Kapila Dev instructs that there are 4 methods: the egg, the lump of flesh, etc. The scientists are saying bacteria split in half and produce 2 daughter cells. Prabhupada explains, bacteria is produced from fermentation, sveda, just like nasty bedding from your perspiration. If you don't clean, bugs will come. In India, the Europeans, they eat meat. Automatically, bugs and germs come within their coat and shirt due to bad perspiration. I was confused. When you say there's born from perspiration, like cockroaches, does that mean that their eggs are laid by the female and then the atmosphere of perspiration enables the eggs to be hatched? No, Srila Prabhupada said, from the perspiration it automatically comes. It still left me puzzled. In the car on the way back, I asked Srila Prabhupada, see here, for clarification. These entities are born from perspiration. Does it mean there's no father and mother? Yet we are just using the argument there must be father and mother. No, there is father and mother, Prabhupada said. The Supreme Father is Krishna and mother is nature ultimately. So perspiration is also another form of nature. Yes, there's always father and mother. There's no material father though. In this case, Yadabhara asked, material father is not material. Real father is Krishna. He may come in so many ways. Pushta Krishna joined in. The thing is that the scientists may isolate some cockroaches in a box, and they will watch the cockroaches secrete eggs. and this or that or whatever. I don't know exactly how the cockroaches. No, give up cockroaches, Prabhupada said. There are many other living entities. They come from perspiration. Bugs, they come from perspiration. Many come by fermentation. It was still in the fog. Yes, but it seems that the form of a bug must come from the form of another bug. So it's very difficult to understand how it comes from perspiration. Srila Prabhupada was patient and clear. The form is coming directly. Why from another? The birth is coming directly. And those who are coming, they will take that form, bug-like form, and drink blood. This is all destined. Spirit soul according to his desires. He's gotten that body. But that body is coming from perspiration. That is why. I finally started to grasp his meaning. So like in our case, the spirit soul takes shelter in the semen. Yes, according to his desires, he's given shelter to such and such a place, and he comes out with a body. And in that case, he takes shelter of perspiration, I asked. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, Daiva Nitrena, that is by superior administration. He has to take shelter and take out the body, come and act. It requires little brain. The dull meat-eaters and drunkards cannot understand. As we piled along the smooth highway, Rupanuga Prabhu observed, I've seen that these cattle that are raised for eating, they are not like dairy cows. Dairy cows are much cleaner. Beef cattle are very dirty animals. They have no clean habits. They are almost like pigs. Still they should be protected though, Pushta Krishna Swami said. They should be used for plowing. A little surprisingly, Prabhupada contradicted him. No, if they are not cows, there is no need of protection. When it gives milk, that is cow. Rupanuga started to say that these animals were created by man, but Krishna pointed out that the males would have been bulls. Srila Prabhupada added that the bull is also required because cows alone cannot give milk unless they unite with a bull. Everywhere in India they require bulls. Generally they are not inclined to kill. But otherwise Pushta Krishna ventured. When Krishna says go Raksha, he means the female, the cow giving milk. Again, Prabhupada clarified, go means species, both bull and cow, but generally go means cow. During class, which continued with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada spoke on the true role of the soul as a servant, emphasizing the impossibility of independence. He repeated to the general body of devotees what he had told the few of us on his walk about yesterday's celebration of independence. My real problem is Janma Mritu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, disease, and old age. So when we get free from these problems, there is real independence. Otherwise, there is no independence. I may dance with independence, but any moment I shall have to leave my country, my society, my friends, my family, my moment. Get out immediately. No independence. This is my position. So that is intelligence. He said the real position was exemplified by Srila Sanatana Goswami, who humbly submitted himself before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should also seek out a proper guru, surrender to him, and then carry out the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become gurus and spread the message to others. Although Srila Prabhupada doesn't normally ask for questions at the end of class, because there were a few Indian visitors, he did today. A devotee inquired, Srila Prabhupada, sometimes when we go preaching, people do not want to take Krishna consciousness. Sometimes they actually. Srila Prabhupada stopped him. So if they want to take, then where is the question of preaching? Because they do not want to take, you have to preach. Otherwise, there is the necessity of preaching. You have to prepare yourself in such a way that nobody is dying for your Krishna consciousness. But you have to convince him that your life is spoiled without Krishna consciousness. That is your capacity. They are under the clutches of Maya. One of the women said that people who are convinced that they already have a revelation or experience that is assuring them of eternal life, They are not very open to hear. Again, Srila Prabhupada was practical. If they are not open to hear about Krishna, then don't waste your time. When in the lower stage of devotional service, he cannot become preacher. When he's a little upper, second class, he can become preacher. So preacher has to see four things: God, Ishvara, Tadadhina, and those who are devotees. God and his devotees, Balisha, innocent. He does not know anything. So three: God, devotee, and innocent. The Balisha, envious, atheist class, he has to see four things. He has to deal with four persons differently. When God, Ishvara, how to advance my love for God with these dealings. Prema Maitri, and to the devotees, we have to make friendship with them. And to the innocent, we have to preach. Oh, there is an innocent person. He does not know. He's eager to learn. Their teaching is required. Teaching, you cannot teach God, or you cannot teach God's devotees. But you can teach the innocent. And those who are divishat, atheist, upeksha, don't go there, save yourself. These are the four things. So when one is not open to hear, then don't bother yourself. That requires very strong preacher to convince. The atheist class, provided he is reasonable also. If he's stubborn, obstinate, then it is also very difficult. But preaching is meant innocent, that one has to actually sincere, but he actually does not want to know God. That is my relationship with God. There is no necessity of preaching, not to the envious, or those who are already advanced, or to God. So we have to look at some of these things intelligently. You know, why do we say the scientists can be rascals? They seem to be so sure about their position. And we have to look at the comments. Like Prabhupada said, he doubted whether they went to the moon. And now you see the shots, it shows them going to the moon in the shot, and it makes it look very convincing. Now they say that Neanderthal man is totally separate from the modern man. But during those days, they don't say we used to think something, but now we changed our opinion. Back then they said that Neanderthal man was the forerunner of modern man. But when the DNA came out, they found out that that isn't true. But they didn't say we made a mistake. And we get the moonshot, people wonder, well, why would Prabhupada doubt it from the moonshot when they make it look so clear? Was there something different about when they did the landing on the moon than how they present it now? I bet no one even knows, do they? Do you know Gopal Raj? Did you see when they were doing the landing on the moon? No, they didn't have the TV here, right? I'll tell you what went on that they don't show now. They were showing a simulation of the landing on the moon. And it would look like this, and it was a simulation done in a film studio. And then they switched to the real thing. How did the real thing look different? Can you tell me? How did it look different? Does anyone know? It didn't. But they don't show that today. They don't show, first here's the simulation and here's the real thing. They just show what is. So, you know, Prabhupada doesn't say definitively that we should go out and make that a big issue. But when they show the simulation and they show the real thing and it looks exactly the same, how could that not create at least some doubt? But when they don't show it later, it's like they say in the court, you have to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Say I grab Gopal Raj's wallet and I push him to the ground. And then I run outside and he chases me and takes the wallet from me. And first they show a film of how I took it from him and pushed him to the ground. And then he chased me. But later on I suppressed that. We only show him chasing me and grabbing a wallet from me. So what does that prove? Gopal Raj stole my wallet, right? But it's not all the information. We didn't show the first things. So the scientists will present, they used to say that until the last month of childbirth, that the baby pig or the baby fish or the human was almost the same. But now when they have the ultrasound, you can do a sonogram and look at the child inside, they find that's not true. But they don't say, we used to say this and now we say that. So that can be, they always sound as if they're so very sure of how it's going on. But when they find something different, they don't say, yes, these were the theories we used to have, and now we've changed those. But we find that the Vedic theories stay the same. And Carl Sagan, the astronomer, said that the Vedic idea is much closer to the scientific than any of the others, because they say somehow the universe came out and expanded. It had to be an explosion, and it happened just by chance. And we say that it came out by design and that it expands coming out from Mahavishnu. So when Isaac Newton's friend said that this solar system is created by chance, he created a bicycle that you pedaled and the planets went around the sun, put it in the guy's living room while he was sleeping. And the man says, what is this? He says, oh, it just self-manifests. He says, that's not possible. He said, well, if you don't think the model can self-manifest, how can the real thing manifest? It's just like if I go out here on the hill here and we take two cars. One of them I'm just going to let it go. The other one has a driver in it. And you see one of them goes straight down and the other one veers off. So the one that veers off is being driven by a person, and the one that goes straight must have gone by chance. You think so? Which one is going to be organized more? The one that goes by chance or the one that someone's actually driving it? That's not rhetorical. Someone needs to answer that. Which one would be more organized? Which one? Say it louder. The one that goes by chance? No? If you think that if something goes, the fact that the train comes on time, I don't know if it actually does, but let's just say it does somewhere, you figure somebody must have made a schedule of when it leaves, how fast it goes, how many stops for it to get there. Whereas when you just let something go, you're not going to see it. So you see that the organized things are going to be more uniform than the non-organized things. Like this building is made up of materials. We have like marble, and we have brick, and we have glass. And which one is going to turn more into a temple? When they just say drop the same elements out of an airplane? Or it explodes? Like when a building explodes, then it forms into a new building? And the things just spin off into space, but it just happens to be in the right orbit around the sun where it's not too hot, not too cold. You see, here they complain when it goes down to 20 degrees and they complain when it's above 28. But a couple million kilometers either way is going to make the weather either minus or above 200, just a little bit. So just by chance, it came that way. So this is how they can be called rascals, because when the facts change, they make it sound as if they always felt that way. So let's see what's here. One of the Indian guests had a question. Prabhupada, are you giving a very simple process? Why there are no Indians coming? They are exposed to Krishna from birth. Still, they are not interested. Nobody wants to listen. Srila Prabhupada answered, as he has in Toronto, because we have become Bhadasabhid, especially in foreign countries, they become Bhadasabhid. So that is the misfortune of India. They're giving up their culture and being misguided. So if they actually feel that they must maintain their own culture, then it is not difficult. It is the duty of every Indian. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that if that mentality is developed, that in India we were born, we have got the greatest culture, recognized the world, so I must take my life successful by taking this culture and distribute it to the world. This is a real Indian culture. So he told the guests that they are thinking themselves poverty-stricken, but it is only because they have given up their own culture. Otherwise, there is no question of poverty-stricken. So anyway, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message, that every Indian should take advantage of the great culture, Vedic culture, and make his life successful. And after acquiring mature knowledge, we should distribute the knowledge throughout the world. Even to India, don't the people already have it? What is the danger between many people? Why was it many of the Westerners took just to Srila Prabhupada, and even Prabhupada's godbrothers didn't catch the mood of preaching, which is, of course, Lord Chaitanya's movement. He went all the way around India several times. Did he go by plane or train, Chaitanya? He walked, didn't he? So his mood of preaching was very strong. But we have trouble many times with some Africans think that we're Indians, that we're just like the average Indians. So whatever that's what they present, that's what we're presenting here. But it becomes worse if you think you already know the culture and you don't. If you have to learn it from scratch, sometimes it comes out better. Let's say we go to Vrindavan, India, and we say the second prayer to Prabhupada, Namaste Saraswati Devi. Which ones do it better? The Westerners or the Indians? Who says the Indians? Who says the Westerners? Why? Why would it be the Westerners? Say it louder. Give her the microphone. Where's the microphone? This is an important point to look at. That doesn't seem possible. How could the Westerners do it better? Why is it they would do that better?
I think it's because they basically were blank slates to write on, so they
Yes.
didn't have any preconceived notions.
You got it perfectly, because this is where this one comes off. The Western devotees learn that it's Namaste Saraswati, to the servant of Saraswati. Many Indian people, oh, it's Saraswati, right? Right? Just like Western people, my granddaughter's name is Chandra. They say, where's Sandra today? They just assume it's Sandra, right? Because it sounds like that. So they assume it's Saraswati. You see, many of them think, Namaste Saraswati Devi, which is a mantra to Bhaktisiddhanta. But you will find that many Indian people, because they grew up, what are we presenting? Krishna consciousness or basic Indian culture? If that's true, then we should be playing cricket on the field down below, right? And the longest devotees would be the best cricket players. Is that true? Because this is Indian culture, and cricket is part of Indian culture. So if you put myself and Bhakti Chaitanya Swami down there to play cricket, would we do very well? But we're practicing Indian culture. We wouldn't do very well because we haven't studied in that. And we're not practicing Indian culture, we're practicing Krishna conscious culture. And there's many things that are parallel, but not all of it. And so when you look as a blank slate, we see that that was what Bhakti Chaitanya Swami was explaining when someone asked why the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta didn't take up the preaching movement, and and Prabhupada and his Western disciples did. And this is why we have to look to what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted, not just what is a basic Indian idea. After all, the ideas of Indians, they call most of the Indians in India are called Hindus, and the natives in America are called Indians. Which one of those two is correct? Which one? Someone have an answer? Which one is correct? Madhurya, Give her the microphone. Tell me which one is correct. Where is it? Take it to her. Tell me which one is correct. Are the natives in America? No, you have to guess at it then. Are the natives in America Indians? Or are the people who live in India Hindus? What is it? Both of them are incorrect statements. Hindus was made up by the Muslims, meaning people who live by the Indus River, which is sometimes called the Sindhu River. And Columbus thought that he was in India when he went to America, and so he called the people Indians. So Columbus discovered America, and Amerigo Vespucci made the map of America, so they named it after him. Which one of those went to America first? Amerigo Vespucci or Columbus? Does anybody know? Neither one of them ever went to America. Columbus arrived on the Dominican Republic, which is the other side of Haiti. And because it was close to America, they say he discovered America. But isn't that kind of like if you went to Madagascar and said you discovered South Africa? Isn't it? If I went to Madagascar, did I discover South Africa? No. And if you made a map without going there? So it's amazing the things that come that we just accept. Oh, those are Indians. They always say we're Native Americans, and they each have their own tribe names. They're not called Indians. So we have to educate ourselves on what is the fact. And we have to understand Prabhupada's teachings for how we conduct our life. And that's why I talk quite often about what Bhaktisiddhanta talked about, the mortology and ontology. And the mortology is the form, and the ontology is the content. We can't think we'll just make an Indian form. Well, they wear dhotis and saris in India, and then they also play cricket, and so we make the form of that perfect. But our content should be Krishna consciousness. Even if someone goes to work in a suit and a tie, but the content is Krishna consciousness, that is better. We have to remember the content is what is the point? Is the point just to present Indian culture? Or is it to practice Krishna consciousness properly? Krishna says, Puchpam phalam toyam yo me bhakta prayachati, to offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or water. So that means that we offer something according to Indian culture, not other culture, correct? If that is true, then chicken tandoori is a part of Indian culture, but pasta and pizza are not. But if we offer pasta and pizza that we make here to Krishna, it's not part of Indian culture. Isn't that better than trying to offer chicken tandoori, which is part of Indian culture? Is it not? What we're following is the instructions of Krishna. Krishna says in the beginning of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that I instructed this Hindu science and that you should follow Indian culture. And he says one should, in the 34th verse of the 4th chapter, does he say that one should approach someone who practices Indian culture and learn the Indian customs from them? Is the word Indian used in Bhagavad Gita anywhere? Is not the word Hindu and the word Indian used the same amount of times in Bhagavad Gita? You know that it is? None. Krishna doesn't say, he says, I imparted this imperishable, so I have to read the words, not the Indian culture, which of course has a beginning and an end. He says, I imparted this imperishable science of yoga. What does imperishable mean? Lasts for 100 years? Imperishable means it doesn't disappear. To the sun god Vivishwan, Vivishwan imparted it to Manu, and Manu to Ikshvaku. And then he says it was imparted in disciplic succession. So is Indian culture automatically in disciplic succession? Sometimes Indian people use the term parampara to mean tradition. But is that the real meaning of parampara? Parampara means passed from a guru. It's like Krishna says, it has to come in disciplic succession. And in the 34th verse, he says, Tat vidi pani prashnena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gyanam gnanivas tat vadarshanaha. That one should approach a self-realized person and inquire from him. They can impart knowledge to you because they've seen the truth, not because they know the culture well. Knowing the culture well is just like, which would you do better? If somebody came here who plays Madunga very nicely, we did a program yesterday in La Mercy, and a couple of people played the Madunga nicely. Now, what would you do better? Learning it. Because I'm a long-time devotee, and I teach you the theory of music, would that make you a better Madunga player than to sit down with someone who actually knows how to play it and they show you how to play it? This is why people have a study of Hindu religion or comparative religions, but they're not shown how to do it. You take a class on the theory of music, you're not going to be a famous musician. You need to know how to actually do it. And that's why we find so many ones just talk hodgepodge philosophy. And it sounds cute, but does it inspire someone to take some kind of action? And that's where Prabhupada is calling them rascals, is that we need to take the things that inspire us to take some kind of action. That we don't look at it just as Hindu culture. We look at it as the things that please Krishna. Many things are there. We don't tell people, oh no, we don't practice that at all. We go, yes, many things are there in it, but we take the things from it that Krishna is directly asking us to do. That's why some people miss the form and the content. Somebody told me that I should watch the series finale of the show Xena the Warrior Princess. And I thought, why should I see that? He says, well, he gave me I think it was the one you stick in, the DVR or the DVD, one of those, you stick it in. And in this one, the end series was called The Way. I think, well, this is interesting. So she and her friend went to India, and the demon Indrajit was there and trying to attack them. And so she struggled, and she and her friend fell asleep out by a tree. And all of a sudden they heard a noise. She pulled her sword out and says, who's that? It says, it's Hanuman. Oh, well, this is interesting. Hanuman's in here. She says, what are you doing here? And he said, I came to check on you. And she said, well, we've been having trouble fighting the demon Indrajit. And she says, he says, well, you should go to talk to Krishna. Krishna can help you. And she says, well, I spend my time in Greece, where all the demigods are just selfish people, and I'm not much interested in these demigods and their selfish ways. And Hanuman said, oh no, Krishna is different. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. You go to him and he will answer all of your questions. So she goes to the temple. I'm thinking, well, I need to keep up with this because Hanuman has presented the philosophy. He's not a demigod. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. So she's in the temple and she's praying and she hears a noise. And Krishna's jumped off the altar and she says, Krishna. He says, you have some questions for me? And she says, yes, I'm trying to fight this demon Indrajit, and I'm trying to be spiritual, but I'm a warrior woman. What do I do? And Krishna rattles off about 20 verses from Bhagavad Gita that are directly in line with Bhagavad Gita as it is. I go, well, somebody read this Gita and put these lines in there. And he said that you better to do your own duty than someone else's duty. He says, you practice your duty as a warrior, because, it corresponded to Arjuna, and think of me in the form of Krishna. And when you really get in trouble, you call out my name. So then she's fighting this demon. And the demon cuts off her arms and he's ready to kill her. And she sprouts extra arms and fights him off. Because she says Krishna's name, Krishna. And she sprouts the extra arms. And nothing said that she was imitating the goddess Durga. You look at the content, directly our Bhagavad Gita philosophy was being shown there, especially when she really gets in trouble, call out Krishna's name. Isn't that getting the point? Do you know that some Hindu people demonstrated against this? Because all they got from it was that she's imitating the goddess Durga. It's like going to Vaikuntha and saying, these people with 4 arms are imitating Narayan. Doesn't mean they're imitating Narayan. That's what they got from it. They thought of the form. She has several arms. She must be imitating goddess Durga, which was never implied. And at the end of this, the director came on with the other people, and they said, we wanted to show this vision of God in the form of Krishna, and we didn't want, it isn't intended to insult anybody's visions of the divine, but we wanted to present this according to the teachings that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. But some people just assumed that she was imitating the goddess Durga. And they missed the point of doing your duty and offering it to Krishna and thinking of Krishna, being in dilemma about the duty. And they missed the point of when you're really in trouble, you practice the holy name. So in that one, they actually got the content from Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And wouldn't that be better than a movie of where they just have the demigods fulfilling people's material desires? So we have to look for the content, not just the form. And to think that people objected, even though it was directly in line, especially that one part, doesn't that give you the whole meaning of Krishna consciousness? When you get into trouble, you call out Krishna's name. Can you imagine that you missed that and assume that she is imitating the demigods? So we have to look for the content and not just look for the form. And this is one of the advantages that happens when books go out. Many people says that many of the directors or people in advertising use the things that we have in the books because there's some pretty definite philosophy that attracts people's attention. Just like I saw the billboard of lipstick. You could call it gorgeous or red or beautiful. But it was called infallible. Now, have you ever heard anyone outside Prabhupada's books in English language using the word infallible? But it catches people's attention, doesn't it? If I tell you something it works pretty well, or it's one of the best products you can get, or if I tell you it's infallible, which one catches your attention more? So we find when these books come out that people use them. Sometimes they present the philosophy exactly as it is. Sometimes they put it into things where it makes people think about it. They use certain things from there because we see quite often that people in this world, that Krishna says the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. And in the television shows and movies, they don't like to present the figures of someone being irresolute. Well, some days I tell the truth and other days I don't. Some days I'm determined and other days I just can't do anything. They like to show people who are resolute in determination, don't they? So they pattern people after some of these people in Bhagavad Gita who are resolute in their determination. And this is why you get books in the hands of people, they may do something. It's interesting, like in the Soviet Union, you couldn't distribute books. And Gopal Krishna Swami went there with a couple of other devotees to do the Moscow Book Fair. And there's a picture of the mayor of Moscow reading a Bhagavad Gita they'd given him. That mayor was Boris Yeltsin, who became the prime minister of Russia. And when the hardline communists tried to take over and sent the tanks out, he got out in the tank and said, "It is my duty to stop you. This is an illegal incursion. You will turn these tanks around and you will accept that we are now in charge." And they went away. And when Boris Yeltsin got in charge, he freed up the society there. And you know, during that time, now India is the main country for distributing books, but at that time, Russia was the main country. Over 50% of our books were being distributed in Russia. Sometimes like 56% of them were being distributed in Russia, because he'd read that book and he obviously got some ideas. He went out and did his duty and stood on the tank and told them, you will stop this. And they did. So you never know where these books will go and who will take them up. And so it's important for us to put the content out there and not just the form. Because you see, when the others present the form, like the scientists, and then they change the form, right? Just like if people put on makeup and the camera shows a different view and they take pictures of them until they get the one just right, and then they doctor it up, they can airbrush out the lines and change the color of the hair and make the whole thing different. And then you get the form, but it's a false form. So we need to try to understand what Prabhupada is giving us about this content and how to give the content to people. It's just like if Rukmini is at the college. Do you tell people that they have to wear a dhoti and a sari and learn how to do Indian dances and learn how to play cricket? No, you get something of the essence of Bhagavad Gita. A few of the things. If you know the Indian culture, but you don't know about Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, or disciplic succession, or finding a self-realized guru, or surrendering everything to Krishna, how about the austerity of speech? Krishna mentions this in Bhagavad Gita. Who follows this better, the average Indian or the Rotary Club? You know what the Rotary Club's motto is? Speech should be truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and based on knowledge. Art says scriptural knowledge, but still, somehow they got some of the content. And other people are just trying to follow the culture and look good. But we don't need to look good, we need to be good. And so what we try to do is figure how we can give that content. And that's what Prabhupada did. Of course, many things are similar with Indian culture. But it's not that we're presenting just the Indian culture. We're presenting the cream of that. It's just like you can go down to one of these supermarkets and you can get some things there to prepare a very nice feast for Krishna, correct? Just like you can go to Indian culture and find many things that are very Krishna conscious. But you can't offer everything that's at the market, can you? No? Some people think, well, we can offer everything or none of it. But we have to pick and choose which things are there. The same thing with it being Indian culture or scientific knowledge. We have to pick the things that are correct. So we'll stop there. I'm a little tired from my journeys yesterday. But I did do many rounds, I think like 86. But that takes most of the day. And I'm a little tired. Any questions or comments? Gopal Raj, bring him the microphone. We'll ask the difficult question. Here's the question. What is mortology and ontology? No, don't just pass it around. I just said it. What does it mean? Mortology is form. Ontology is content. And we have to look for the content of Krishna consciousness. Correct? It's just like we have an altar and there's deities and we offer incense and flower and flame. And someone else does that and asks all kinds of favors from God. Form looks the same, right? But is the content different? The content is different. Just like some people offer a fire sacrifice, but they're offering it for some material benefit. Form is the same as when we perform a diksha or a wedding. But at our weddings, it'd be like Tukaram and Laguna Beach reminds the people that marriage is just like the initiation. You make a promise and you keep a promise. Is that important? Like if we have a guru, do we keep that guru? Some people say, well, There's so many gurus, why do you just follow yours? It'd be like telling someone that comes here with their wife to the Sunday program, well, there's so many women here, why do you go home with your wife instead of a different one? Many of these women are very qualified. Is it true? Yes, but you still have to go home with your wife, right? Even if the other women make good wives, but they already have a wife, they stick with that one. You don't say, well, if another woman is qualified, I just leave mine. Or if they promise that they're more qualified, it doesn't mean you follow them. You follow yours. You may have a job, and there be many jobs, but you have to show up at your job, not somebody else's job. Krishna says, better to do your own duty than someone else's. And so our duty is to follow the teachings of Krishna according to how Prabhupada gave them, and not to think, well, there may be so many bona fide things. Some may be bona fide, some may not. But when we already have a process that's working, we follow that. If I'm on the road to La Mercy yesterday and someone said, oh, there's another way to get there, but you're on the way that's the shortest route and you're already going, do you change it and speculate? No. All right, we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. You answered that question so well. Let me turn this one off. I didn't mean to embarrass